Bobby Manning here for Watch the Breakdown. We're getting ready for Celtics Pacers tonight, round 2. I love the mini-series because we can look back at one game and use that to forecast what's going to happen in the next game. 7 o'clock tonight, Pacers and Celtics get back at it. We're just a few hours away from that, so going to keep this brief and focus on that Celtics defense. The Celtics are 1-2 to start this year, and you can say that blasphemous, awful, borderline shameful loss to the Brooklyn Nets is dragging down much of the stats that we're looking at here when it comes to their defense to start this year. But nonetheless, it's shocking to see a defense that I and others thought could be maybe the best in the NBA, adding in Tristan Thompson, length along the wings. Going too big to start the year with Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson all seemed like a formula for success. Brad Stevens even thought so. But they're not. In fact, they're in last place. 30th in defensive rebounding, 30th in field goal percentage allowed, and tied for last with the Clippers, with the Rockets, and Basketball References defensive rating. They're last. 118 points per 100 possessions the Celtics are allowing. No matter how you stack it up, all these lineups, 3 guards, Grant and Rob, Tristan and Tice, certainly. The Celtics starting lineup is 123 points per 100 possessions allowed to start this year. Why is that? Let's look at this Celtics and Indiana Pacers game. First quarter, you got Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the ball creating. If you ask me, I don't think the Celtics season could be going any better on the offensive side of the floor. You have Tatum on the ball creating in an effective and creative way. Jaylen Brown, though, more specifically, dribbling into his own shots. The 2-point shot particularly has been efficient for him. He went 6 and 9 from 2-point range in the win over the Bucks. Another good game here, especially late as the Pacers defense starts to pack it in. And this is a tough Pacers defense. Nate Bjorkgren, as I said in our Dome Theory episode early this week with Caitlin Cooper, running many of the tendencies that the Toronto Raptors did against the Celtics last year that bothered them. Most particularly pinching the lane and a little bit of box and one against the Celtics ball handlers here. But it doesn't bother Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum early. You have Marcus Smart playing off them as an off-ball shooter. The top 3 on the Celtics are stacking into their roles fairly smoothly. Now, what's going wrong with this offense that is affecting the defense? Bad turnover. Just a live ball turnover that leads to easy points for the Pacers. Pacers start 9 of 11 on the fast break in this game. So uncontested layups off steals and dysfunctional passing by the Celtics offense. Completely dismantling anything that the Celtics had going on that end. And it not helping at all the defensive issues that we talk about here that the Celtics are going through. And Grant Williams is going to be highlighted throughout this video. Starting here on the switches. It's not 100% his fault. It feels like the Celtics, in many of the minutes that Grant and Rob Williams are playing together, are dropping Rob into the paint and creating weird switches at the top that pick up cutters with 2 here, like you see with Grant and Rob dropping back on Doug McDermott's 3 here. But another problem is Grant can't stay with perimeter players on switches. We're seeing Grant Williams play the 4 mostly as Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice, Rob Williams share minutes at the 5. And that's not going well for Grant, who more and more gets switched on the guards and torched by on the defensive end. Happened numerous times in this one. But Rob, 6 of 7 shooting in this one, playing off Tatum on the offensive end, critical steals that we'll get to late in this game. There's reason to play him right now. The energy, the putbacks, the slashing drops to the rim, dives to the rim, where he's able to get these incredible dunks that we see. It's efficient scoring, it helps, and playing off Tatum and Brown, makes it less likely that they're going to draw double teams if Rob can dive to the rim and slam the ball on everybody's head. So there is reason to play him. Brad called him the best Celtics center so far. I wouldn't disagree, although Tristan's been solid on the offensive end of the floor. Tice, however, only 14 minutes in this one, gets rejected by Miles Turner here. We don't have enough time to go over the Turner dialogue. 6 blocks in this one. I've said everything I can say about him. The three-point shot, the approach offensively is what worries me about him. But he scores 4 points in crunch time of this one as well, in an important, productive 4-man spot for the Pacers, playing alongside Sabonis. Nate Bjorkgren, even though Turner kind of knew he was going to get traded, and ends up in a spot that's not his ideal position on this team, playing well to start this year, and has been a great shot blocker in that pinch-in defense that the Pacers play. Don't let anyone get to the rim. That's been their MO. Another run-out here for the Pacers. Points that the Celtics can't get back at the end of this game as they lose by 1. These are just bad. 18 turnovers for the Celtics in this one. This isn't one of them, but a live ball off a miss here. I think it was Grant Williams who shot this one. Poor floater. Not a guy who hits floaters. Takes one at the end of the clock. Not a terrible shot with the clock running down, but a live ball. As we see with the Pacers, they're going to try to turn up the intensity, the pace this year. They're 12th, I believe, in possessions per game. Or 8th, rather. I think they're tied for 8th in possessions per game. So they're getting up there as an offense that runs. Celtics aren't doing the same. 27th in pace to start this year. That's something else that could be getting them going. But when you're not getting stops, your pace is going to be dragged down a little bit. Getting to the late moments of this one, Rob Williams, why is he on the floor late? Steals like these. Awesome plays to keep the Celtics in the game. Also had a block on Malcolm Brogdon late with the score close. You see this steal right here in a trap. Could have gotten the Celtics the win, but we get to the last play of this game, and the genesis of all the Celtics' defensive issues right now, the switch. Brad Stevens wouldn't describe this play explicitly, but we look here, was a handoff to Grant underway that he misses, and Rob tries to recover here. Rob took the blame for this breakdown in coverage here at the end of the game, likely for the foul at the end on Sabonis that turns into the game-winning point for Indiana, makes it a 1-point game rather than a tied game. But I look back on this, and Grant, unable to move from the perimeter to the post with his man, still one of the biggest problems on this team. So tonight, what do we look for? Less Grant at that 4 spot. Semi Ojeleye hasn't been great in the same regard. He's getting blown by a little bit on some of these switches, and Sabonis said after the game he saw them getting lazy with the switches, and that's a big reason why Bjorkgren called this play for the game winner. The Celtics right now, their switch defense is not working. There are plays where you even see them not switching when they should be switching everything, at least from an ideology standpoint here. It's not good. This team does not have enough offense to be one of the worst defensive teams in the league. And the results are the results because of that so far. Good competition, bad competition. I don't think there's any of that this year in the Eastern Conference. We see the Hornets, the Cavaliers, Magic, competitive teams that stack up skill-wise with the Celtics team, at least early in the year. So if the Celtics are turning it over, if they're not making the rotations defensively, they are not going to make the playoffs this year. Let's watch the breakdown. I'll see you guys tomorrow after round 2.